Welcome to the Paddle Like a Girl podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Paddle Like a Girl podcast. Today we have Dionne Daley. Dee is the founder of the BIPOC Outdoor Gear Library, which is a community based lending library in Guelph, Ontario, dedicated to providing outdoor equipment access to Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. Through this initiative, she aims to reduce barriers to outdoor recreation, foster community connections, and promote education. I have had the pleasure of working with Dee through a couple of collaborative events with Paddle Like a Girl and the library. And thanks to that, we have since formed a pretty good friendship,
Little
which I'm very
bond.
grateful for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tori. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here too.
Yay. I've always admired the work you're doing with the library. Like from the minute I saw it online, I was like, this is so awesome. And I was really excited to make those collaborative events because I feel like they really go hand in hand pretty well.
Well, the feeling's mutual because I think that that's exactly what got us connected, right? Was seeing
Hmm.
what each other were trying to do in our own ways on
Hmm.
bringing more representation to outdoor spaces, and so it was a natural fit.
Yes, yes, it's so amazing. And we're starting talks of planning our 2025 event.
Third annual, yeah.
Third annual. Yes, I'm so excited. It's
hmm
such a fun event. Do you want to give people, for people who have no idea
hmm
what we're talking about, do
Yeah.
you want to tell them what our event is?
Sure. So, I mean, the intro does a really good job at least telling you what the Gear Library is all about. But to kind of expand on that, not only is the Outdoor Gear Library exactly that, a lending library to help break down some of those barriers to getting outside in terms of access to camping, hiking, skiing equipment, whatever it might be. But we also want to put on educational programs too, helping people with that introduction to whatever it is. So Tori and we had connected about the gaps that we were seeing around maybe people being introduced to backcountry camping and trying to do it in a really accessible way. So combining sort of the BIPOC community that follows the Gear Library and everything that we do, as well as all the great women and gender diverse folks who follow Paddle Like a Girl, it made sense to bring that all together and create a really safe space for people to learn. So it's turned into a whole weekend event, and we are helping people with all those types of skills, both on the water and off the water, so that they can feel more and more confident with backcountry camping. And it's turned into some really cool bonds and friendships, I think, from
Hmm.
what we've seen, and people actually going out together
Hmm.
and kind of taking some of those skills with them.
Absolutely. Like, as much as it is a learning event, it's the opportunity for people to
It's
come learn new skills.
community.
It's community. And that's,
Yeah.
you really feel that, especially in the evening after everyone's had like a very full day on the
hmm
water and hiking and whatever it may be. And then we're all around the fire and just like the joy, the smiles, the laughter, the conversations.
hmm
It's so amazing and so much fun.
Yeah, I look forward to it every year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start the planning.
hmm
Well, of course, we'll talk a lot about the library,
hmm
like how it started and how folks can get involved. But I'd like to first start with you and how you got into what you're doing now, like outdoor adventures and all that.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to at least be exposed to lots of kind of more like traditional car camping at campgrounds around southern Ontario with my mom and her friend, and as well as her kids. So we were outside in nature a lot, not only just with camping, but we also lived rurally. We backed onto 400 acres of conservation forest, actually. So my brother and I would very frequently just be lost in the woods and
Wow.
getting up to mischief and climbing trees and making forts and doing all those kinds of things. So I developed a love for being in nature and being outdoors really young. And that was fostered thanks to the environment that I grew up in. And then I started kind of more the adventuring kind part of nature access once I was in my late teens and I actually started working in Algonquin Park with some folks who've become lifelong friends. But that was like my first exposure to what backcountry camping is all about and really
Hmm.
kind of experiencing that remoteness. And kind of not having all the luxuries with you, but like packing
Right.
differently around food and those comforts, but learning a
Hmm.
lot along the way, and gaining a lot of key skills that help to develop what I do today.
Okay, and so I guess your time working in Algonquin,
Mm.
is that what gave you access to gear, or did you have a
Yeah.
lot of that gear?
Well, so I worked at the Portage store, which,
Hmm.
for anyone who doesn't know, it doesn't exist anymore. It's actually taken over by Algonquin Outfitters, but it was an outfitting store.
Hmm.
So not only did they have a restaurant and gift shop and all the other things that make it a little bit more of a destination along the corridor of Algonquin Park, but it also has a full kind of outfitting aspect. So not only do they rent out canoes just for people who are doing day use or they want to take it overnight, but they had all the gear to help with actually outfitting people. And a lot of people were coming from other countries. So if you
Hmm.
think of the fact that, a European family might be coming over and they wanted to go on a beautiful adventure in Algonquin Park, they couldn't bring all their gear with them.
Hmm.
We had everything there and available for them. So it made it really easy on my days off from working that I could basically have access to all of that gear and get out myself, which meant that it meant that I could, take the time to develop my own kit, my own
Hmm.
gear, because I had this access at an early age and I could continue to kind of discover, oh, what do I like, what do I not like, trying other people's gear. That's part of it oftentimes is like, I think you posted something the other day about all those like little luxury items. You
Hmm.
learn about that over time and tripping with multiple people and having all these things available to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to get out there and try it to really figure out what works for you. So it's
Hmm.
kind of a nice opportunity to, and also to see like what you want to spend more money on versus what you can kind of cheap out on,
Yeah.
if you will. So that's pretty awesome. So you lived there basically throughout the summer.
Yeah, it was a cool thing. They had basically like cabin dorms, I guess.
Hmm.
It was any late teen, early 20s dream job,
Yeah,
honestly,
it sounds like
because
it.
yeah, it's like a camp for young adults. We had such a blast. But it was so cool to be around people who prioritized being in nature as well, that we really
Hmm.
did take our days off working to go out with whomever also had those same days off. So a lot of different people who I would go camping with, and we'd take those few days out and do like a little loop from Canoe Lake or go down to Smoke Lake and do something around there. And I learned so much during that time, and it definitely got me obsessed with backcountry camping.
Amazing. And so, what was, I mean, being a Black woman working there, were there a lot of other people who looked like you? Did you feel like an outsider at
Uh,
all?
yeah, not a lot, not
Okay.
none as well, which is actually kind of surprising. So one of the Library board members was someone who I met while working in Algonquin Park, Caroline.
Okay.
So we were definitely not commonly seen in
Right.
at the Portage store. Um, and yeah, it did make me feel like a bit of an outsider, especially I would say not so much with the community of folks who I had at the P store, but mainly when we would go out and we were maybe at the head of a portage or we were on the lake. There seems like there was like an increase in people being like, "Are you okay? Are you
Right.
lost? Do you know what you're doing?" Like questioning in weird ways that it's just like it's small, I know, but it just questions your sense of belonging.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously, like I had a lot of experience because I had been working there. I think I worked there for 3 seasons in total.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's this assumption
Hmm.
as a person of color in these spaces that maybe you don't know what you're doing, that you don't belong, that you need support in ways that aren't always necessarily helpful, but a little bit,
Hmm.
demeaning. So
Yeah.
that was my experience, but I was thankful to have a lot of great tripping pals to
Hmm.
help support.
Yeah. It sounds like you were in a supportive environment
Yeah,
within that community, which is nice.
which makes a big difference. Yeah.
Big time. And it's
Yeah.
hard too for people to understand who don't have to think about these things. So to
Mhm.
somebody, we talk about like, white privilege, and I know
Mhm.
that it's kind of a controversial thing, I suppose, but the reality is being someone who is a minority, you're hyper aware of that at all
It's
times.
true.
So
It's
you're
true.
at, a portage, the head of a portage trailer or a put in, there's groups of people 99% of them are white, you're hyper aware. And so any interactions you have, I am always like overthinking them, but I'm hyper aware of how people are responding to me and reacting to me constantly.
Absolutely. It's natural for that to happen because you're right. Like the privilege is that you don't think about it.
Mhm.
Um, and so being in a position where you are aware of who might not feel make you feel welcome in the space or might make
Mhm.
you feel unsafe is important. A lot of what had inspired me actually in actually going through with making the gear library a reality were things that were happening socially in the world. What was happening in the States with the police brutality against Black bodies was a big thing back in 2020 and into 2021. And there was the occurrence that happened with Christian Cooper in Central Park. He was a
Mhm.
birder and he was enjoying nature and an activity, obviously, that he loved, but felt very unsafe with um, Amy Cooper, the individual who proceeded to call the police on him.
Mhm.
And, it's one of those things where I feel like I've grown up in a really privileged area. I do most times feel quite safe, but it also could have happened to anyone. I could
Mhm.
have been that person. And I just want to make sure, like, I really just, that was the trigger, the catalyst to help identify where we can change the narrative on who belongs in nature and what safety looks like and what
Mhm.
belonging looks like.
So that was what year that you started the library?
The ideas were starting to rumble, I guess, around 2021. Eventually, when I actually it was I guess the end of 2020. I started putting out a call just saying, "Hey, does anyone have extra gear that they're not using and they might
Mhm.
want to donate in a way that I can help distribute it to folks who might need it?" So that was at the end of 2020. I started collecting things pretty casually until
Mhm.
uh, a news source, a newspaper, picked it up and
I remember
they
that.
helped to get the word out. You remember that? And then there was
Mhm.
a radio interview, and all of a sudden, my basement became overflowing with people's used camping gear, which was incredible, but I didn't know what to do with it. So that really is what like started to spur on, oh, this is a real thing. I need to make
Mhm.
this happen. Not only is there lots of donations coming in, but there's a lot of people who are getting kind of interested in what it means for them and what that could provide them with access.
Mhm.
So by 2021 was when I kind of officially became a not-for-profit along with the board of directors that I brought on board. Um, and we found some space so that it came out of my basement
Mhm.
and into a proper facility to help with, working out that whole system of
Yeah.
lending.
Yeah, so you have like a whole system. Like you go online, you
Yeah.
can go through your inventory.
hmm
Can you kind of walk us through how someone might borrow some gear from you?
Yeah. So the BIPOC Outdoor Gear Library is what we're called. So you can Google us or goes directly to our website. And there, anyone who self-identifies as being Black, Indigenous, or people of color, we're not, you know, monitoring that. This is not our intent, but we want people to know that we created this space for a reason.
Mhm.
And the reason being is that there's not always spaces that are open to everyone that feel like it really is accepting of everyone's experiences. Because a lot of people who are coming through our doors have either no experience or very little experience as well. And so
Right.
they want the support in identifying what gear they need and how to use it, and what they need to consider, right? So that's the intent for why it's more of an exclusive space, but they can come in and they sign up. It's currently a free membership. There's just a waiver to sign, but we don't collect anything else other than just basic contact information,
Mhm.
and that gives you access to the entire inventory. We're
Wow.
constantly working on updating it, but the idea is that you see pictures of here's what a tent looks like that you might get for two people versus four people.
Mhm.
Here's some camp stoves, sleeping bags, whatever you can think of, we probably have at least one of them and are working to kind of build our inventory in areas that we know are going to be most useful to people. And it's a really easy online system where you click on something, you kind of book it out for the period of time, and then we
Mhm.
arrange a pickup, and then you drop it off when you're done with it.
Sounds very straightforward. And so it's in Guelph.
It is in Guelph. That's where I am. I'm in Guelph.
Yes. Are there talks of other locations? I'm sure. Like, have you received like any messages or emails about people showing
Yeah.
interest in other locations?
There, there are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a matter of capacity in our ability to kind of open up what I have visions of future chapters of the BIPOC Outdoor
Mm-hmm.
Gear Library that expand beyond Guelph, or even some sort of like remote service that allows for pickups and drop-offs outside of the Guelph area. Again, unfortunately, I don't have the time or capacity to do that right now, but it hasn't stopped other people from reaching out and saying, I think I want to create a bit of a gear library system in my town. Can you give me some tips and tricks? I've heard of
Mm-hmm.
students who, are in university towns and they're looking to engage more with their outdoor clubs and communities and they want to offer gear in that way and they've been inspired by what the gear library has to offer. So we're just happy for people to be doing this themselves, even if
Right.
we can't. But that's not to say that in future there isn't always the opportunity of chapters being opened
Right.
up all over Ontario and beyond.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's such a great initiative. And so if somebody has the means to do that, then that's great. What has been like the biggest challenge starting from, between it being in your basement to where you are now?
I mean, people have been really generous in getting us to where we are now, both with donations of space in kind, monetary donations. We've got partners in town who are helping with building new shelving when we start to kind of expand beyond
Amazing.
our means. And so um, it hasn't necessarily been a challenge because so many people have been so willing to support and help in any way that they can, and we've accepted it fully.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest challenge is I would love to be doing this full time. And because we're not for profit, I and the rest of my board members have full time jobs and we're busy people. The challenge is more just like making sure that we can keep it going in the ways that we want to and expand in ways that, the community wants too. So, where we can, offering more events, where we can, making sure that we've got enough of this type of gear that yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge is that the possibilities are endless, but my
Yeah.
time and capacity unfortunately has those constraints.
As far as support, I'm sure you have a lot of people reaching out. Like I've reached out and I'm like, hey, do you need more dry bags? Do you need
Yeah,
more of this? And you're
and we've
like,
taken them.
yeah, you have, but you're like, we've got a lot. So what
Yeah.
would be the most helpful way for people to interact with you guys?
And it's a good question because I think folks do. I mean, there's a bit of a mutual benefit sort of thing to any kind of lending economy type of program where
Mm-hmm.
people can donate things that they no longer have use for or they've upgraded from. What we found though is that there are also people who are kind of just getting rid of junk. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have to be careful about what we take in because we want to make sure that people who are taking it out have really good experiences. And knowing that there's so many people who are beginners and might not know how to deal with slightly older model of equipment that's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
trickier to manage. We're also kind of being a little bit choosy in that regard now that we have such a great inventory base. At
Mm-hmm.
this point, there are always going to be calls for certain types of equipment. So, we can go through phases where, like right now, I'd say, we want a lot more camp chairs in the inventory. And so,
Mm-hmm.
good working order camp chairs would be great to add. But then we have the surplus of a lot of things like dry bags.
Mm-hmm.
um, and we probably don't need more based on how many go out in any given season.
Right.
So I would say the biggest support right now would come in the form of monetary donations or partnerships, honestly. So people donating their time as instructors, or if
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of programs that we can partner with reduced rates, that helps us put on the events that we know go a long way for this community. Yeah, it's probably the most effective at this point in time
Right.
way to support what we do, and just spreading the word, talking
Mm-hmm.
about us.
Yeah, like I guess similar to our event, we had a few sponsors basically come in and
Hmm.
help support financially so that we could run the event at a lower cost to the participants.
Yeah.
Because like the idea is access to these things, right? If if there's an outdoor activity that someone maybe has never tried or thought of trying, they're probably not going to want to go spend $500 to attend a workshop that they're
Yeah.
just semi interested in trying, right?
It gives them the chance to trial it, like you said,
Yeah.
to say like, is this something I want to maybe continue investing in?
Hmm.
Let me, attend this really accessible program that allows me to, work out the kinks of whether this is something I want to do and learn about some gear that I might want to invest in and purchase later on.
Hmm.
It's a great way to say, is this something I'll do regularly or not? Maybe it's only a once in a while thing.
Exactly. Because all of these activities require, if you really want to get into it, require a pretty big investment to get all the
Hmm.
gear and like passes or whatever it may be. So,
It's not cheap.
having the opportunity to try it and be like, not so into it, or hey, I love this, I'm going to invest. So, and you run a lot of events. So, what can you give a few examples of different types of events that you
Oh,
guys run?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, over the winter, we've now done a few learn to cross country ski events. Ice climbing has been really fun, as well as just like educational hikes that we've partnered with different individuals on. Ones that were focused on tracking and looking at different kind of tracks in the snow. Throughout the kind of warmer months, we've done lots of clinics on paddling, obviously the backcountry workshops, mountain biking, indoor climbing as well. Like it's basically
Okay.
anything that can bring people outside and
Hmm.
participate in kind of those types of recreations outside. We want to find a way to help people access that in some way. Um,
Okay.
so it's always new ideas, honestly, coming in every year too.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. So, if someone does have um, like an idea to run an event or they're interested in
Tell
hosting an
us.
event. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and usually with if enough people are like, "Hey, I really want to do X or Y," we'll find a way to, you know, figure out the right group to make that happen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I've always been like such a big fan of the library and just I think that more people need to know about it. Like even my sister was like, if I want to go camping, how like and I don't have the gear, I'm like the gear library.
There you
Like here it
go.
is. Here's their website. Check it out. It's just such a great entry point for people. So
And that
yeah.
was really what it, beyond just sort of the social inspiration that happened, it was actually me having conversations with people saying, I love that you get to go camping, and I love that you've got all this knowledge and gear and access to transportation. You think of all the things that are required in order to participate in some of these things. And it was some individual saying, I never grew up with this. I don't know where to start. No one's ever taught me. No one has ever lent me gear. I don't have access to a vehicle. So all of those things started to pile up. And I was like, I think I can help you. I think of that
Hmm.
community that I had in Algonquin Park that helped me with learning new
Right.
things, that gave me access to that gear.
Hmm.
Um, it's it community is a big part of what we do, and having new tripping pals, right? Like
Hmm.
it it means so much to learn from other people, and so that's what the gear library hopes to offer people who don't necessarily have that community around them, but they do have the desire.
What has been the most rewarding piece of starting the
Oh,
library?
oh, there's so many rewarding things. Honestly, like each time people come into the library and they'll say, there's been a few times where we've provided gear for an entire camping trip, like right from headlamps down
Hmm.
to, sleeping mats and pillows, all
Right.
the cooking gear, dishware and everything, right? And they'll come back and say, we had three generations of family members camping, and it just wouldn't have happened without you.
Oh wow.
We had a couple boys come in over the winter holiday, and teenage boys that you're like, you could be doing anything, but you just got out snowshoes and cross country skis, and you and your buddy are just going to go try this out. That's really
Oh,
awesome.
amazing.
So, it's little moments like that, or even Tori, I know that you and I were at the Hamilton Adventure Expo, and we had prior participants of our event come and, show up to that space and really represent for people of color who love the outdoors. And it was just so rewarding to see that group of individuals there and to, have us all come together as community
Hmm.
as well. So the rewards are endless. Like it's so hard not to bring all of these moments up.
Oh, it's so true. And like, there's just something so rewarding about seeing these people together, and you're like, you're like, I had a little hand in that. It feels so good. It's like this makes it all worth it, you
Well, you
know?
probably have that with Paddle Like a Girl, right? Like when you see folks get
Yeah.
out and feel more confident.
Yeah, absolutely. Like people just making friends, and then they're tripping together, and then
Yeah.
they have a whole new tripping partner that they can plan trips with going forward. And so that was
Hmm.
kind of the initial, like not the initial idea, but it was a huge part of it, is like,
Hmm.
who else is into this kind of thing that I
Hmm.
can plan these trips with, right?
And sometimes that's all it takes, right? Is like creating a space where all of a sudden you can find like-minded people, people who
Hmm.
have just as much interest in trying something new around the
Absolutely.
outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll never forget the moment at our event last year.
Hmm.
Everyone was sitting around the fire on the second night, and
Uh,
you and I and a couple other people were sitting at the picnic table just kind of outside of the circle, because we'd had a busy day ourselves, and we're just kind
we're
of unwinding, and
observing.
we're observing, and just again the smiles and the laughter and the
Hmm.
conversations, the singing, people are singing
Hmm.
songs, everyone's joining in, and it was just we're just admiring
We
everybody
were
and
like
just,
proud mamas,
yeah.
just sitting back and watching the kids enjoy themselves
Yeah.
in
Oh,
nature. Yeah, it was fun.
just so amazing. Makes it all worth it. I do want to talk about, because you've worked with brands who support the
Hmm.
library. Are there any particular questions you ask them to vet them to make sure that they are in the right place?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't want to partner with just anyone. We want to
Hmm.
make sure that there are shared values, and that
Hmm.
goes for the brands that we partner with as well as just other organizations that we partner with. We want to see in action what they're doing to break down barriers, what they're doing to kind of focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in what they offer. And so that's a big decision point for us, as much as we would
Hmm.
love to take money from anyone. Um, Holding and sharing values is
Hmm.
important as part of our mission. So, yeah, it's a good question, and it means that we do want people to walk the walk and not just talk the talk
Hmm.
when it comes to accessibility around nature spaces.
And one brand that has been particularly supportive of you is Merrill.
Yeah, they actually reached out to us initially,
Hmm.
and were observing kind of what we were posting online and a lot of not just what we were offering, but also the education that we were offering. And so they brought me on initially as one of their trailblazing ambassadors, just as a representative of kind of diversity outdoors, and
Hmm.
they've focused so much not just on diversity from the position of ethnic backgrounds and people being of diverse backgrounds in that way, but also gender diversity.
Hmm.
So a lot of their ambassador program has looked to raise the voices of those individuals and highlight what so many groups are doing across Canada to create better representation in the outdoors. So
Hmm.
we really appreciate that Merrill is one of those brands that follows through
Hmm.
with what they prioritize for nature access.
That's awesome. Yeah, they were a big supporter of the event the
Hmm.
last 2 years. Obviously, in a perfect world, the BIPOC Outdoor Gear Library would kind of have different chapters in different
Hmm.
areas. You said that a few people have reached out for some tips if they did want to kind of start their own.
Hmm.
What advice would you give to somebody if they were looking to start up a library in their area?
Well, yeah, make sure that you can manage it. It's not a small feat, as I've already indicated. It's a lot of time and work just to just make sure that it runs smoothly.
Hmm.
But I will say that you can start with donations. About 90% of what we have are in-kind donations from community members, because I said this is one of those industries where people are upgrading, people are getting new equipment all the time. And instead of it
Hmm.
going to a landfill or being thrown out and kind of determined to be junk, there's so much of that that's still in good working order.
Hmm.
So start with putting calls out to the community. make sure you have a space, obviously, to store it. But it doesn't have to be as formal as our system. It could be as simple as, hey, I've got extra skis if anyone wants them, take them out.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, a couple tents. They're here for you if you need. So maybe don't focus on it being as big as something like the BIPOC Outdoor Gear Library, but just a simple way to kind of lend and borrow gear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, there shouldn't have to be a huge expense right at the outset, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
this is the type of kind of circular economy that's created when you just ask people very
Mm-hmm.
simply, do you have anything you're not using that you're willing to give up, that you're willing to kind of donate to this type of a cause?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of initiatives that are popping up around renting equipment and knowing that it isn't something that people are doing maybe regularly. Maybe they don't even
Right.
have the space for all of that equipment too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether you make it more of like a rental model or something that's more lending like this, completely up to you. But it's something that people have a lot of desire for. So
Yeah.
I know that you would be a success no matter what.
Right. You obviously went through the process of registering
As
as
a
a
not
not
for
for
profit.
profit.
Yeah.
How long was that process?
I had, thanks to Caroline, she does a lot of kind of our administrative stuff. She'd looked into it. I guess a few things administratively to think about. It does take a couple of months, I think, to register properly as a not-for-profit. You do need a board of directors, and I think the minimum is three. I could be getting that wrong. We also wanted to make sure that we had legal representation. You can imagine legal and insurance as well, because you can
Mm-hmm.
imagine that when people are taking things out that are connected to your name and they get hurt or they maybe
Right.
misuse the equipment, there's some things to keep in mind just to protect yourself. And we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure, not that we just don't trust people, but it's just smart to do, especially when you're offering something to the community and it's leaving your doors and you don't know what's happening with it. There's always
Mm-hmm.
risks to use of anything, and so to cover your butt a little bit, it's good to make sure that you get some of those ducks in a row,
Mm-hmm.
um, and do it right.
Right.
So that's why we did take a few months at the beginning just to make sure that we really understood what needed to happen to run this properly. But again, that's us kind of going all the way to something that's a little bit more formal. That's not to say that there can't be informal ways to do this too.
And you found yourself an incredible board of directors.
Hmm.
How did you find these people?
I think like anything, it all depends on kind of all these people that you meet along the way, that you meet
Mm-hmm.
in your life, right? Caroline, I already talked about, was someone who we had connected by working as youngins in
Mm-hmm.
Algonquin Park. And so she was always in the back of my mind as someone who I'd love to kind of bring on board for something like this. Um, the next person that I brought on board was Lauren Lowe. She's a friend of friends, and we became kind of close friends together and um, bonded over our love for camping and being in
Mm-hmm.
nature. So it was natural to get her on board as well. And then Harjot, who's our other board member, her and I actually met while doing a winter camping trip as part of Brown Girl Outdoor World's programming with Demisha Dennis. And she and I connected really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I thought about the skill set that she brought, not just with the love for nature, but she also has some legal backgrounds as well. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what you have to think about when you're rounding out a board of directors is everyone's
Mm-hmm.
skill sets and what they bring too. Um, so she was an incredible asset to the group, and we've all bonded so much over just doing it in a way that feels true to us. We took a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time with our mission, vision, and value statements. We took a lot of time talking about what it looks like to kind of make decisions together and collectively for the good of the community, and always keeping that at the forefront. And then on top of it, we've gotten so many wonderful volunteers who not only help at events, but also help with the functioning of the library itself.
Mm-hmm.
Special call out to Karen, who was someone who was a neighbor, and we got connected through our love of, she's been camping her entire life. She has so much knowledge to give. She's actually been involved in some of our events, right? So,
Yeah,
all,
she used to run the program that's up near me in Sundridge. I forget
Hmm.
the Dare program, I
Dare
think it
program.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she has some good stories.
She's got some good stories. She's been tripping, since she was like a young girl.
Hmm.
And she is just a wonderful person to have in this community, and who has just as much love with getting people out of nature and helping to kind of teach them on what to do and how to do it,
Hmm.
and things to consider, and just she's so willing to share that knowledge.
Hmm.
So again, it's all about the people you meet along the way, and it's
It's
just
so true.
it's worked out.
Yeah, I feel like I feel the same way about Paddle Like a Girl. It has
Yeah.
um, given me the opportunity to meet some really incredible people like yourself,
Hmm.
because I wouldn't have met you had I not been running Paddle Like a Girl. And then
No.
Sherry, Emily, Al, like just like endless people. Even met Harjot at, she
At one
came to
of
my
your events,
workshop.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and so then to see her again at the events the last couple of years, and so yeah, it's just such an incredible
It's
community of people.
it's become like a really tight-knit community. I feel like this outdoor community that's so focused on making sure that it looks different in the future than what it has
Hmm.
historically.
Hmm.
And we've all come together to with that goal in mind, and all of the different ways that we can kind of offer our expertise. It's
Hmm.
really, really cool to see that come to fruition.
Would the library ever consider doing like liaising a guided trip?
Oh gosh, that would be part of like wonderful future goals. I think
Hmm.
it all depends on partnership opportunities. I think of what you do with some of the guided trips. Um, Insurance, again, I hate like all those little like technical
No, it's true.
details.
It's a main
You have
thing
to
for
think
sure.
about it, and
Hmm.
I'm not a licensed guide. I don't have all
Mm-mm.
the expertise necessarily, so it'd be partnering with the right guides, and making
Hmm.
sure that we had the right resources to make that happen. But it would be incredible to kind of
Hmm.
take it full circle from teaching backcountry skills to actually applying it with a group of individuals. So one day, that definitely
Yeah, I know.
hopefully is in the cards.
Yeah, the insurance thing is very real. I
Yeah,
was trying to get, because I'm not insured to guide trips, which is why
right.
I just collaborate with companies. But
Hmm.
I was got a couple quotes earlier this year to see like if I did want to contract out some guides and just have it under Paddle Like a Girl versus having to go with
Yeah,
different companies. And honestly, it's just like easier to just work with companies who already are very established
yeah,
with their
yeah.
insurance. But absolutely, one day it's like that would be ideal if, you know, we could just kind of do it ourselves. But
I know.
there's a
I
lot to
know
think
you and
about.
I have big plans too. We're like,
I
hey,
know.
how do we get like, a central location that people can like
Yeah, we're like, okay,
camp
let's buy
out
a
of?
property.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've definitely gone that far. Let's buy a property together that people can
Oh my
camp on
goodness.
and learn new skills on, and
Yeah. Have a fully
uh,
like immersive week, you know, workshop kind of thing.
mhm,
But
mhm,
one day.
one day.
But in the not so far future, what is next for the library?
Hmm. Well, even just this year, obviously, we talked about the fact that we're starting to plan some events. Some partnered events in probably the Brantford area, where we'll do um, some informational sessions on Black history in the area, on just relationships with nature, and the struggles of the Black community in the Brantford area. So that'll be really fascinating, I think.
Wow,
We've got some great speakers who are going to come in. We're going to kind of introduce a bit of a birding component where people will get a chance to like take out some binoculars and learn about
amazing.
the birds in the area. So that's a really neat one that I'm looking forward to putting on with some partnered groups as well. But it is again one of those things where we are kind of flying by the seat of our pants a little bit. And if someone were to say, "Hey, I really need an event that's going to take us outdoor rock climbing," we'll be like, "Let's do it. Let's figure out a way. We'll make that
Hmm.
happen."
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're taking suggestions,
I'm
basically, is what you're
taking
saying.
suggestions for sure.
Okay. And then, of course, you're also accepting somebody who wants to run the event, right? Like if somebody's like, "Hey, I'm
Always.
really good at rock climbing. I want to
Yeah.
teach other people."
Yeah, and again, like just as we said before, we want to make sure that we're partnering with teachers, guides, and instructors who understand why we exist and why we're doing what we're doing, and who kind of really put a focus on making sure that the people that they're guiding and teaching don't look like everyone else necessarily in nature,
Hmm.
um, and want to contribute to something greater.
Yeah,
So yeah, absolutely, we are taking people who are saying that they've got a particular skill set and want to give us a hand in putting something on. It's
great.
always welcome.
My dream for you, my dream for
Oh,
you guys, is, do you follow Eland Stribling? I'm not remembering what his handle is on Instagram,
I don't remember. If you
but
said the handle, I'd probably
I
know.
want to say it's Steve Irwin or something like that.
Oh,
Black
Steve
Steve
Irwin.
Irwin,
Yeah, Black Steve Irwin.
because
Yes,
he
I
teaches
definitely.
fly fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's in the States, but I don't know. I've just followed him for so long and I just feel like he's so entertaining and he's obviously super passionate about it. And he teaches like black youth
Hmm.
fly fishing. And I think that
Hmm.
would be just such an incredible
Oh, yeah.
collaboration.
Well, I'll
So
join
let's put
that
it out to the
dream.
universe.
Thank you. I'll join that dream. And honestly, just anyone, there are so many great people who are kind of on this train of creating better diversity in outdoor spaces. That was where I started, even before
Hmm.
I started the Gear Library, was following everyone
Hmm.
and you got to change up your Instagram feed. You got to make sure
Hmm.
your socials are representing these types of voices. And once I did, that's where I was really inspired to be kind of one of those people who are change makers in this
Hmm.
area. Because there's so much opportunity to learn and grow from other people and their experiences. It doesn't always
Hmm.
look like everyone's, right?
Correct.
People are coming from all types of different backgrounds, um, and and they all have something to offer. And so whether it's fly fishing or like, I have dreams of like creating like a cookbook around like different kinds of like
Oh,
cuisine that could
yeah.
be consumed in nature and over a
Totally.
campfire that looks different than just like hot dogs on a stick. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like it could be so many things that we could take this and really take in other people's experiences and learn from them. It'd be so cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of which, maybe we should switch up our dinner at our workshop this year.
Yeah, we might need to. I know.
I
Though
feel like
I
it
think
wasn't a
those,
huge hit among the group.
come on, the fajitas, I think everyone
Yeah.
loved them. You know what they did love? The strawberries with fluff.
Oh, there was life before fluff and life after fluff.
And there's
Remember
life
that?
after fluff. That's what everyone said. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Um,
there's crowd pleasers for sure, but there's always
yeah,
something that we could explore to change it up.
for sure. The fluff thing, it's the strawberries dipped in marshmallow fluff, and
Hmm.
the marshmallow fluff is roasted over the fire. In case anyone's wondering what life before fluff and life after fluff is, I
Basically,
saw.
you are all living life before fluff. Go try it.
Yes, if you haven't tried it. And then actually, I saw my sister in law, Heather, she did strawberries with chocolate and marshmallow fluff.
Mm.
I'm like, we might have to get
Well,
some chocolate.
and then have you already talked about the fact that we tried savory s'mores not long ago, which was also a game
Oh, yes,
changer?
savory s'mores. Yeah. Yeah. The brie cheese is where it's at.
Brie cheese on a stick over a fire, melty melty, and a cracker with your
Oh, with
uh,
some meat,
that
prosciutto or
takes yeah,
something.
takes charcuterie to the next level.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too.
Um, okay. And so we already chatted a bit about how folks can support. Ideally, financially is probably the best route. Your time, so volunteering, showing up.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just like getting us introduced to different companies to collaborate or, folks who are willing to offer things at maybe discounted prices or
Yeah.
willing to sponsor events in some way that help to reduce the cost for participants. So I find that at this point, because we've got such a solid inventory, yes, we're
Hmm.
always going to put calls out for very particular things, but maybe not just everyone's kind of regular camping kit right now.
Hmm.
That is the best way to support what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, like awareness, right? Like somebody may
Awareness.
have
Yeah.
connections with a company who's looking to support just what you're doing and they
Hmm.
just don't know you're there yet. So
Yeah.
just spreading the word, as simple as sharing on Instagram, is really
Yeah.
important. It goes further than people think, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and Lo, who's on our board, has been putting out some really great content, really great educational content that,
Hmm.
that people have been sharing widely. So please engage with us on social media too. And then just be that friend to someone
Hmm.
in your community who
Hmm.
invites someone out for their first time, who loans them their tent because they want to go camping for a weekend. Like, just that's what I want is for everyone to be that friend to someone
Hmm.
who wants to try something new, who just maybe just didn't have that experience growing up,
Yeah.
or are new to the country and new to this type of recreational activity. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a huge difference. And would you have, if you're looking for very specific pieces of gear, do you have a list of what you're looking for anywhere?
I wish we were that organized, and we should, and we will. We'll work on a section of our website actually with kind of an ever evolving list of
Hmm.
needs.
Okay.
Um, So, yeah, like there's a few maybe blind spots that we have right now where we'd like to fill. We talked about fishing, like if, especially around fishing gear, I think it would be really cool to have
Hmm.
more and different types of fishing gear. We just went out ice fishing a couple of weeks ago to have
Hmm.
some gear that would allow folks to try that, um,
Hmm.
obviously safely and with support, but just so that they had it because it does add up.
Big
And if
time.
you're not
Yeah.
doing it regularly, it
Hmm.
could become a pretty big expense.
Okay. Well, that's, yeah, something to put out there. I'm just imagining that like a lot of people are probably reaching out like, hey, do you need more of this? And it's probably, you've got such a big inventory that you're probably
It's,
like, it's
yeah,
easier to tell you just what we need versus like what we don't need. Right?
exactly. I know. I feel bad because I know that people have all the good intentions of saying, hey, I've got used gear. The BIPOC Outdoor Gear Library can take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while normally the answer is yes, we do have to kind of put the halt on
Hmm.
some items just because we now know in our fourth year, we're going into our fourth season. We now know what the patterns of people taking stuff out is too,
Right.
and
Hmm.
what seems to be kind of more popular items than not. So we have a better sense of, okay, well, we do have our 80th dry bag, but only, 20 dry bags usually go out at one time. So,
Yeah.
things like that. So
Right.
we're learning. And so that
Hmm.
means that we're able to kind of manage that a bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of seeing the patterns, I guess. Yeah. I guess that'll happen after 4 years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like we're learning that they're just before like long weekends, like May 2-4 weekend, July long weekend. Um, we see a lot more people taking stuff out. We
Fair.
even before local music events. People have been getting tents for music festivals and stuff like that in the Gulf
Okay.
area, so
Yeah,
we
I
can
guess
help
why
them with
not?
things. Yeah, there's so many needs.
We've chatted a lot about the library and not specifically where they can find you. So what is the website and what are your socials?
Hmm. So BIPOC Outdoor Gear Library everywhere on socials, BIPOCOutdoorGearLibrary.com for our website, which is where you can access all the inventory, sign up for free membership. You can also contact us by email, which is BIPOCGearLibrary@gmail.com, so without the outdoor. Um, but that's monitored by both myself and another board member, and we do our best to get back to folks as quickly as possible. But again, this is a grassroots organization, and so we're doing our best to kind of manage all the
Mm-hmm.
communication we get all the time. People reaching out with donations or wanting to partner, and yeah, it's probably the best way to get a hold of us directly. But that's how you can follow what we're up to, what we're doing.
Awesome.
I would say Instagram is probably your best bet for new news, events and things like that. You can stick it in
Okay.
your calendar.
Okay. Well, thank you. Before I let you go,
Hmm.
I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions.
Okay. Oh gosh.
No pressure.
Yeah.
They should just be kind of like quick answers,
Okay.
hence the rapid fire.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. So hiking or canoeing?
Canoeing.
Okay, fair. I'd agree with you on that one. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay. What piece of gear would you say the library rents out the most?
Oh, um, sleeping mats,
Sleeping mats.
like
Okay.
thermarests. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what piece of gear do you think people rent out the least? It's just gathering
Um,
dust.
s- our skates, ice skates. We haven't had great winters.
Oh yeah,
So
that's yeah.
I unfortunately our skates haven't gone out very much and they're all sharpened and ready to go.
Okay, well there you go. Okay, everybody, if you need skates, go to the library.
Hmm.
And what would be a dream destination for you to go adventuring in?
Oh man. Tori, it would be with you wherever we go, probably
Yay.
up somewhere in the Yukon. Um,
Okay.
I feel like we have to keep expanding our adventure list now that we've done such a cool trip to Utah. Um, but yeah, probably up in the Yukon, seeing some of what you've done up there seems like a dream.
Oh, yeah, it's just so beautiful. So I hope we can make that happen. Well, that's all I had for you today. Is there anything that I might have missed that you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of. I really appreciate you asking all the right questions so that more
Okay.
folks can become aware of what we do.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to hopefully planning a trip with you sometime soon.
I'm sure we will.
Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Tori. Bye.